Lawmakers are still working on a deal to close out negotiations on a nearly $1 trillion COVID relief package. It would provide more than $300 billion in aid to small businesses, $300 a week in federal jobless benefits, and $600 in individual stimulus checks. Joining us now from Capitol Hill, the number 3 Republican in the Senate, John Barasso. Senator, where do we stand on COVID relief talks? I understand there's a lot of parliamentary rigmarole, but what are the chances that all sides will sign on to an agreement today?
This gets done today. No more delays. We're not leaving until we have relief for the American people. People are hurting, people need help, and there are 2 things we need to do to write this final chapter on coronavirus. And the one is to get people vaccinated. We're doing that now. 20 million people will be vaccinated by the end of this, by New Year's Eve. But we need to provide help for the American public, people who have been struggling, until we get enough people vaccinated that we can fully get the economy back on track. And that means people back to work and kids back to school. So direct payment checks to the American people, $600. For people who are watching, Chris, if they got a check last time, they will get a check again this time, adults and children. For people who are out of work through no fault of their own, $300 a week for enhanced unemployment going into next year. And for the small businesses and the working families all across America, we were going to do more paycheck protection loans so those small businesses can stay open, so people can get paychecks all the way through. This has been a very successful program. 13,000 small businesses in Wyoming have used this program. It's a little more specific this time in that the business has to be fewer than 300 employees, and they actually have to show a loss. But that's the way we get this disease behind us.
I want to just hone down on one point specifically. I know that you worked out the issue about emergency lending authority to the Fed, but then just after midnight this morning, President Trump said he wanted to see the direct payments higher, bigger than the $600 to each American who got one last time. I take it you're not going to go along with changing that part of the program.
We need to get this done today. The president is right in that this is no fault of the American people. Chris, we should have done this months ago had not Nancy Pelosi played politics through the fall because of the presidential election. She's admitted as much. We've had a bill pretty comparable to what we're going to pass today, and we've offered it by Republicans time and time again. The Democrats beat it down 40 different times. This has been wrong. The delay has been too long. We need to get it done now for Christmas.
After the Electoral College voted this week to make Joe Biden the next president of the United States, Senator Mitch McConnell addressed the issue on the Senate floor. Here's what he said.
The Electoral College has spoken. So today I want to congratulate President-elect Joe Biden.
You were asked that same day whether or not Joe Biden is now the president-elect, and you dismissed it as a gotcha question. How, Senator, is it a gotcha to ask who is going to be the president 1 month from today?
Well, first, you know how the press is sometimes in the halls of Congress. If you don't give a one-word answer, they're not satisfied. I talked to them about the fact of the Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, and the 12th Amendment to the Constitution. And I accept what has happened in the election and with the Electoral College. I was one of over 70% of the people of Wyoming proud to help and vote for President Trump. Over 70 million Americans have done that. He's done remarkable things. I don't believe we would have a vaccine today if it weren't for President Trump's determination. And all of those things. So it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, but the Electoral College has now certified the election. We have the Constitution, and I accept the outcome of the election.
Well, so let me ask you directly. Will Joe Biden be the next president of the United States?
Yes, he will.
You accept that?
I do.
Okay. That wasn't so hard. You wrote an article for the Wall Street Journal recently in which you criticized how Democrats delayed confirming members of the Trump cabinet in the month he came in January of 2017. I want to put up on the screen what you wrote. Mr. Clinton had 13 out of 14 in January when he came in. Mr. Obama, 11 out of 15. Senate Democrats made sure Mr. Trump only had 3. Senator, are you going to play the Democrats' game of delay, what they did to Donald Trump back in 2017, or can you promise swift confirmation of his nominees? And are there any of the names you've heard so far who you consider dead on arrival?
Well, a couple of things. It looks like the Biden cabinet would be third term of the Obama administration, and that didn't sit really well in Wyoming. We have a role to advise and consent on these nominees, which is why the election coming up in Georgia is so critical in the control of the Senate, and why I want to make sure that Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue get elected there. Because if you want accountability and not just a rubber stamp for a Joe Biden cabinet, you need to have people like me as chairman of the Energy Committee. So we'll have hearings, ask the tough questions, but we are not going to forget what happened with President Trump's administration and the delayed process that went through it. So it's not going to be a garden party if the Republicans are in the majority. These nominees are going to have to run the gauntlet. In terms of specific nominees that you ask about, I'm from Wyoming. It's an energy state. Here's my concern. When regards to energy, Joe Biden has repeatedly said that he's against a lot of exploration for energy, a lot of exporting of energy. So his nominee for the Secretary of Energy has said this. She said, we ought to be doing everything we possibly can to keep fossil fuel energy in the ground. The impact of that on our economy, on jobs, it cuts the throat of my state, our economy, the men and women who work there, the energy that America needs. It's going to drive up costs significantly for American families. So you bet I'm going to ask tough questions.
Finally, President Trump says that he is going to veto the NDAA, the Defense Authorization Act, that funds the Pentagon, funds an Air Force base in your state of Wyoming, and that includes 26 new measures that would deal with cyber defense. This, of course, in the wake of this terrible cyber hack that we've had this week. If the president goes ahead with his promise and he says he's going to veto it, and he would have to by this Wednesday, will you vote to override that veto, sir?
Well, first, I would discourage him from vetoing. I would encourage him to sign it, especially with this new cyber hack where we were blindsided. Chris, as a nation, 6 different agencies have been attacked in our government, and this has been going on since March. We need to have a forceful, effective, punishing response so people pay a price for this, think twice about doing it again. And one of the things that the president could do, in spite of his concerns about the National Defense Authorization Act, is to sign this, let this bill become law. That's what my recommendation is to the president, so he doesn't face the situation of a veto override.
And in 15 seconds, will you personally, if he goes ahead and vetoes as he says he will you vote to override, sir?
We need to have this signed into law. I'm encouraging the president to do that. If it comes to the House and to the Senate, I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to have to make that decision. It would be much better for the country for the president to sign it.
Senator Barasso, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Good luck on coming up with that deal you promised for today on COVID relief, and happy holidays, sir.
We're going to get it done. Merry Christmas, Chris.
Thank you.